Hi everybody, and welcome to another League of Legends video. And today's video I'm going to be doing a public session where I'm going to be talking about the mindset on how to approach the game, along with the logistics of wave manipulation and finding the simplicity inside of a complex game that I see that a lot of players, even today, struggle with. In fact, a lot of even higher level players seem to struggle with this. And I'm going to go ahead and address it. So, the subtopics of the lesson, or this session, is essentially written out right here, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into it, right? So, I'm going to first talk about the Bruce Lee quote. A punch is just a punch is more than a punch, and a punch is just a punch. And I think that this quote has been referenced in multiple occasions in different, different crafts, right? But it really does pertain to League of Legends. And so the analogy to me, and the way I interpret it, is broken down in three simple steps. A punch is just a punch, where if you are playing the game, you are just playing the game. The second step is, once you understand the basics of the game, that this is a tower, this is the minion wave, this is how everything interacts inside of the game becomes more than the game. The punch is then more than just a punch. But then once you understand everything, and once you know wave manipulation, you know sequencing, you know jungle routing, you know tempo, you know all this stuff, eventually the third step, which is the step that most people get stuck at, and most of the people watching my videos are always on the second step. The third step is finding the simplicity inside of a more complex game, where then you acknowledge that the punch is still just a punch. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this stuff more towards the end of the video, but I did want to go ahead and talk about it right now because this is quite important for us to know that this does exist. And again, I'm going to elaborate on this a lot more. Now, the second topic I'm going to discuss is that rank is liquid, right? Now, when I say rank is liquid, I see a lot of people are complaining about, I'm silver 1 and I want to get to gold 4, or I want to get to gold 3, or I want to get to platinum. The reality of the situation is, it doesn't really matter. Now, this is going to sound really cliche or really weird, but if you completely forget about the rank and you just focus on what the game is truly about, the rank becomes a reflection of your skill, which is quite obvious. This isn't news to anyone. But the main takeaway to this point is that you want to focus on the gameplay and actually completely disregard your rank, right? The reality of the situation is, most people who are watching are not constantly being viewed by thousands and thousands and thousands of people on their OPGG. They're not doing some kind of weird, they're not trying to go pro, right? A lot of people watching the videos are not trying to just go pro unless you're like already challenger or something. And a lot of the people watching the video do not have that much attention to their performance. And so I've noticed a lot of people are very hell-bent on getting a higher rank because it is, again, the end process, but fail to acknowledge the actual process going to that rank. And so one thing you should actually do is you should completely disregard the rank. It doesn't matter what rank you are, you just have to keep playing the game, meaning that you should never even think about your rank. Eventually, you'll play so well for so many different games consistently that the rank will essentially be reflected in your own gameplay. It is just not something that you have to think about, to the point where, for me personally, as you guys have known, I have been like a diamond player for a very long time. I've been hovering from D3 to D1 for a very, very, very long time. And I never had the time to climb, and I played different roles, and I was demotivated, whatever, right? It was a whole backstory. But once I started playing the game, without caring if I hit Master Tier, or if I hit Challenger, or if I even demote down to like Plat 1, I started playing a lot better I became a lot better of a player, to the point now where I'm literally one game away from Master Tier. And I didn't even notice. I was just playing. I didn't look at my LP. I didn't care about anything. I just kept playing, and I just tried to refine myself, and eventually the rank showed soon, right? the wins and the losses don't matter, right? So you have to completely disregard that. In fact, what I urge you guys to do is start up a new account if you are worried about your personal ranking, and on that account, spam the game and don't add anybody, don't talk to anybody. That account is just for you, and it's for your development. This is something that I did for a very long time as well, right? So you have to realize, in addition, that just because you're Diamond 3 doesn't mean you're actually Diamond 3. On a good day, you're a Diamond 2 player. On a really good day, you're like a D1 player, if you're like, you know, if you're really into it. And on a bad day, you're like a D4 player, or you're like a Plat 1 player. So rank is very liquid. You have to realize that. There are cases, again, I've played with many master players, many grandmasters, even a lot of challengers from last season. They are playing like they belong in Platinum and in Diamond 4 sometimes, on a bad day. And I'm not blaming them, obviously, everyone has bad days. But what I'm trying to say is that people will play at different skill levels at different times. And so just because you're Diamond 3 or you're Gold 3 doesn't mean that you're just Gold 3. You could, if Gold 3 players are usually Gold 4 players or Silver 1 players, while simultaneously Gold 3 players could also be Gold 2 players or Gold 1 players, right? And so you don't have to be too worried about demoting 1 or 2 divisions down your rank, because you have to realize that you're already in those divisions as we speak, right? If you're, again, same concept, if you are a Bronze player, if you're a Bronze 1 player, on a good day you're a Silver 3 player, on a bad day you're like a Bronze 4 player, right? So these things are a lot more liquid than you guys think, and rank is literally meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. It is just a it's just a rough indicator as to where you're at, and you should not put too much emphasis on it. Rather, the emphasis should just be on consistent refinement of your own gameplay. Okay? Now, how to achieve this is obviously not that easy to do, right? You need to somehow find a way to kind of like train your mind, you know, train your mind, or literally transform yourself mentally to be able to think like this. And to that, there is there is a technology, there is a process to doing so, which is essentially the third topic, which I'm going to talk about, which is going to be mind, body, and then you. And the you is neither the mind nor the body. The you is like, basically it's not your mind and it's not your body. So when we consider these 3 aspects, when we consider the mind, I'm going to write a little bit neater here, we consider the body, and we consider you. You guys have to realize, and this is not just pertaining to League of Legends, that the mind is not you. That is not you, right? The body is not you either, meaning that the only you is just you, right? So what this does now is this actually, and I talked about this earlier in my other videos and my other mental and my other like ranked mindset videos, where you now have to distance yourself from your body and from your mind. Meaning that, now a more modern example of this would be, hey, I had a terrible day, I feel like shit in this game, and this guy in my rank game is making me feel even more shit, because, you know, he's running it down in the lane, or he's not yanking the lane, or, you know, I have a great lane state and he's not coming down, or my support is stupid. These things are all relative to how you think. This is all mind, right? This is just your mind essentially pretty much just hijacking your success, right? It's hijacking you at the end of the day, and you want to try to prevent that. Your mind and body are essentially tools that that are given to you, and you want to be able to try to control them to the best of their abilities. The more you can control your mind and the more you can control your body, the better success you'll have inside of the game. And yes, the body does matter. Also, I spelled body wrong. What is wrong with me? The body does matter because, you know, it does require you to be able to have fast reactions inside of the game. So mind and body are both very important factors when it comes to success in real sport and in League of Legends, right? Which is still a real sport, but I'm talking esport, right? There's esport, and then there's also the physical sport. And so the mind is not you, and the body is not you, and the only you is actually just you. And if you can acknowledge that, you're gonna find a lot more success. If your body is like, let's say you're in pain, right? Let's say you have a headache or something, and you know you don't feel good, but you're in your final ranked game to, let's say, you know, you're in a ranked game, and this is the last game of the day, and you need to win, or you need to actually perform. Then if you give distance to your body and you give distance to who you are as just you in general, then you can acknowledge that, hey, yes, I see that I have a headache, but I'm not going to let that headache essentially dictate the game outcome, even though it hurts. When we acknowledge it probably does hurt, right? Likewise, the mind, if you're angry, you can acknowledge yourself by putting some distance from you and your mind and saying, okay, well, I am tilted. It's clearly that it's very evident that my mind is in hijack mode right now, where I'm very angry about the game. I'm very tilted, and I don't want to play. But I have to win, or I have to perform, I have to keep going, and so I don't want to let the state, my temporary mind state, or my temporary mental state dictate my permanent success. Because once you lose that game, or once you flame somebody, or once you end up, not performing well, that is permanent. However, the mental state that you currently have inside of the game, or the physical state that you're in, whether you have a headache or your hand hurts or you just don't want to do anything, or you're tired, those are all temporary. And if you can acknowledge that, well, you can actually only acknowledge that once there is distance between you, your body, and your mind, right? So in order to do this, there are multiple practices, right? So meditation is a very important practice. Meditation is something that I practice pretty much daily. Meditation is something that has changed my life personally. I've been doing it for 2 years straight. I'm able to meditate, probably I can sit down for an hour and not move and just continue to meditate, and I'll be absolutely fine. And as you notice, a lot of the best athletes are also into meditation. Faker also meditates, and meditation is essentially a way to help you. And again, there's types of meditation. The problem with meditation is that people do it wrong, right? People have a lot of misconceptions with it. And so there are different types of meditations, and there are different types of breathing exercises. Two breathing exercises / meditation practices that I would recommend would be Isha Kriya. Let me spell that right. All right, there's Isha Kriya, and then there's the Wim Hof breathing guide, right? So these are essentially the two breathing exercises / meditation exercises that I would recommend. This one helps you with the topic of essentially distancing your mind, your body from yourself, in order to understand the tilt and actually use your mind and body to be able to achieve certain aspects of the certain variables that you want to happen inside of the game or just in your everyday life. And then the Wim Hof meditation aspect is to relax yourself between games. It's also a great way to refresh your mind. It actually does a lot of things to you. You should definitely try it out. I will link all of that in the description below. And again, everything that I'm talking about now is credited. It's all aspects of the game, and just aspects of just everything that I'm talking about is all from different sources, different credible sources. So none of this I'm actually making up. I've done extensive research over the years on these things, and I'm just trying to compact all the information and give it to you guys as smoothly as possible. All right. So we talked about the punch is just a punch. A punch is more than a punch, and at the end of the day, the punch is still just a punch. We talked about the fact that rank is liquid, where if you're D3, you're actually D1 on a good day, and you're like D4 or Plat 1 on a bad day. And then we finally talked about the mind, body, and then you distancing, while simultaneously talking about two different actual practices you can do. And like this, there are many more practices you can also do. All right. Now, final topic, and again, I'm going to go back to the first topic and chain it with it, where a punch is just a punch, right? So there are 3 steps again. A punch is just a punch is more than a punch, and a punch is just a punch at the end of the day. And so a good example of this is, I always get asked in Twitch chat, and granted, I get a lot of questions that are extremely, extremely stupid asked in my chat, Discord, or DMs, or Twitter, wherever, right? Okay, Zen, what do I do? If I'm Irelia into Yasuo in mid lane, do I shove wave 1? Do I shove wave 2? Do I bounce on 3? Like, what do I do, right? What is the actual play? People fail to realize that, I'm just gonna adjust my camera here. People fail to realize that the game is a lot more liquid than they think it actually is. I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm playing red side, okay? Let's say that enemy is playing blue side. Let's say I am playing as Twisted Fate. Let's say enemy is... Whoops. Sorry, my camera just decides to... I don't know what's so loose, but yeah. Let's say enemy is Katarina. Okay? So it's Katarina versus TF. Let's say that my jungler is Elise. Let's say enemy jungle is Evelynn. Let's say that Elise does a route like this. Elise does a route, so let's say Evelynn does a full clear from bot side to top side, whatever, right? And Evelynn ends up on the left-hand side. Elise acknowledges this because of, you know, bot lane maybe leashing or wards or whatever. And Elise does a route like this. Elise goes 1 into 2 into 3. Now Elise wants to invade. Now, because Elise wants to invade, I can manipulate the wave differently than if maybe Elise doesn't want to invade, right? Or maybe Elise wants to play a more defensive route, right? And so maybe I could essentially shove wave 1, I could shove wave 2, I could shove wave 3, and I could shove wave 4, and I could have priority for Scuttle Crab at 315. That's possible, right? Now let's say that the variable changes, where let's say that Elise, or let's say it's not Elise, let's say that it is Xin Zhao versus Zac. Let's say that Zac ends up starting left side to avoid Xin Zhao, and let's say Xin Zhao starts right side for whatever reason. So Xin Zhao ends left side, and Zac ends towards the right-hand side. Now, what I can acknowledge that, again, we're not considering what happens in top, and we're not considering what happens in bot, that the 315 crab is, there's no aggression inside of the river, because both junglers are essentially going to be pathing to opposite angles of the crab. And so now the sequence becomes different for me. The sequence now can become, I'm going to shove on wave 1, I'm going to probably build on wave 2, maybe I could shove on wave 3, and then maybe I could just not auto wave 3, like I can have, not shove, but I can just have wave 3 meet here at the tower, and then I can bounce on 4 and get a good state for 5, like 4 and 5. Maybe I can bounce on 3 and get a good state for 4 and 5, or I can bounce on 4 and get a good state for 5 and 6. This is all relevant to what the jungler wants to do. Now this is, again, a punch is just a punch, right? You're learning League of Legends. A tower, what do the minions do? How do the champions work? There are 4 abilities, and you know there's AP damage, AD damage, armor, etc. A punch is more than a punch, where it's not just all of that. There's also tempo, wave sequencing. There's also like understanding how to like route, right? Itemizations, specific itemizations, right? All of these things are more. This is a punch is more than just a punch. But at the end of the day, all of this stuff that I'm talking about is just simply sequencing, tempo, and it's all just very simple stuff. At the end of the day, this is still just a punch, and the people that are watching, a lot of people that are playing in silver, gold, platinum, even diamond, and even in master MMR, they are stuck at the part of the game where a punch is just a punch, the third step. They're stuck on the second step where they think a punch is more than a punch, and they're not able to move on to the third step. And so if you ask a challenger player, or you ask someone really, really good, or maybe you go onto your favorite streamer's chat or whatever, and you ask them a question, usually they're going to give you a very surface answer. And the reason for that is because they understand the third step, that a punch at the end of the day, even through all the complexity, is still just a punch. And my fucking camera is just trolling me, isn't it? Holy shit, how long has it been like that? That's fine. Anyways, yeah, so going back to what I was saying, yeah, that's about it. So a punch is just a punch at the end of the day, and so you need to try to find the simplicity inside of a very complex topic, right? Or a complex game. Now we can change it up, right? Let's say that I'm playing Cassio into Lissandra. Let's say that I don't know. Let's say that my camera just doesn't want to stay. I'm so sorry. It actually broke like a few days ago, so it's like kind of stuck. Doesn't really want to work. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, there we go. Maybe it's better now. Yeah, okay, anyways. So, what was I saying? So, Cassio into Lissandra, right? Cassio into Lissandra. Let's say that I have Xin Zhao on my team. let's say enemy has Zac on his team. Let's say Xin Zhao does route like this. He goes 1 into 2 into 3 into like 4, and then he goes like this, right? Or maybe he skips wolves, whatever, right? Again, I want to now make sure that I sequence my wave relative to that. Maybe Xin Zhao doesn't want to invade, right? Maybe Xin Zhao ends up going like this. Maybe he goes like 1 into 2 into 3 into 4, and then he wants to do like maybe he can't invade left side jungle because maybe let's say that Zac isn't there, or maybe Zac started top side and Zac is on the right hand side, and so maybe Xin Zhao can come straight down into mid lane. Well, relative to that route that Xin Zhao wants to make, you can now sequence your wave according to that. A good example again could be in bot lane. So if we just play it out into bot lane here, let's say for example that we are playing, you know, X champion versus X champion versus Y champion versus Y champion, whatever, right? Let's say that we are playing from blue side, and let's say that enemy jungle is, again, I don't know, let's just use Jarvan, J4, right? So J4 starts bot side. We know that J4 ended up going immediately to his top side jungle. Let's say maybe he doesn't do a level 2 or whatever, right? And we have a ward and whatnot. And nothing ends up happening top side of the map. Meaning that now our sequence can be relative to that, right? So maybe as bot lane, let's say we're playing Zyra into like, I don't know, Vayne, Braum or something. So we do have lane initiative and we do have lane control. And so now let's say we can control on wave 1. So we get level 2 on wave 1, which would be essentially getting a minion lead. Level 2 ends up happening on wave 2. We've won on wave 2. And now on wave 3, we can, you know, do whatever we want. And then maybe on wave 4 and wave 5, this is when This is where J4 is back onto the right-hand side of the map relative to when his camps will end up spawning around 4:30. Let's say, for example, that J4 ends up just simply going to top lane, and it seems as though he dies and he doesn't actually have any camps taken up in top side, and none of his camps are down in bot side, because let's say he goes into top lane, gank doesn't work out, 2v2 happens and they lose, right? 2v2 happens and they lose. And now J4's route is immediately like this, which now changes our sequence in bot lane, because we know Jarvan isn't going to be on the right hand side relative to wave 4 and 5, and so now our sequence can now change to maybe win on wave 1, win on wave 2, push on 3, push on 4, push on 5, push on 6, etc. And so now what ends up happening is, let's say that J4 finishes his left side clear. Maybe now we end up bouncing on like 6. Maybe we recall before 6 arrives, and now 7 and 8 come into us, and we're playing the lane here while J4 is on the right hand side of the map. This is all tempo and wave sequencing. This is a very complex topic. However, if you can get to the third step in the Bruce Lee analogy, and you can acknowledge that a punch at the end of the day is still just a punch, then you can see that this is not all that complex, and this is all pattern recognition, right? All of the stuff I talk about, the way I literally coach is through tempo and wave sequencing. This is just the two aspects that I use when it comes to coaching. And then the third aspect I use sometimes is also like the extra stuff, which is like champion mechanics, like champion micro movements. That stuff you can just learn the more you play the game, right? Because then when I'm coaching, I can like feel the person playing, and I would tell them what would be the most optimal call relative to, you know, wherever they're standing or whatever they're doing at the time, right? Anyways, so that's about it. And again, I can't go over every sequence, right? I can't go every single jungler, but once you understand that at the end, once you're at the third step, and you know that the punch is still just a punch, then you can substitute any champion in any area of the map, and you can essentially know what the sequence of the wave will look like. And this is something that will come in time. I sadly cannot explain this in a video. In fact, I wouldn't know how to explain this, because there would be so many different sequencing, because there's like 150 something champions, and there's so many different variations of what could happen inside of a game. I can't do that. But what I can do is, again, if you go onto my YouTube, you'll see all of the different you know, statements and conclusions that I make inside of the game. And what you can start to do is you can try to read them and then reverse engineer how I came to those conclusions. And then by doing that, you can build yourself a like kind of a sixth sense when you're coaching League of Legends. And so you can literally do what I'm doing literally by yourself, and you can even start coaching people. Like, I don't think what I'm doing is that impressive. I don't even think I'm that knowledgeable about the game. But the way I see the game, through tempo, through wave sequencing, and through just the micro mechanics that I see that people should just do, I'm able to coach the game at a high level, play the game at a relatively high level, and find success in League of Legends. And I think that anyone can do this if they do have the right tools to do so. And then that should also be accompanied with practices, which would be outside of the game, like training your mind, training your body, and then being able to distance yourself through actual practices that, again, the link is in the description below, while simultaneously understanding that your rank and your personal achievements and your goals are very liquid. They're variants, right? If you're a D3 player, D1 on a good day, D4 on a bad day. Okay. Anyways, that's about it for this video. This has been a 25-minute video, I think. Yes, pretty long video. But yeah, I'm gonna put this out on YouTube, and yeah, if you guys are interested in getting coaching from me, I'm not doing public sessions right now because I'm trying to get from Master Tier right now into Challenger, playing just mid lane, and I'm not really coaching much. However, if you go onto my Patreon, again, it is a Patreon monthly subscription, and on my Patreon, I'm going to be sending out videos just like this one, although a little bit shorter, where I simply just teach the logistics and just the workings of how the game, operates. Okay. Anyways, that is it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys for the next video. Bye. See ya.